Walter Matthau, Robert Shaw, a great script, a great action director, and all in glorious 4K. What's not to like?
Okay, roll 'em!
The Taking of Pelham 123 has been available on 4K from Kino Lorber in the USA for quite some time, but now we finally have it here on Arrow Video in the UK. As for the look of this UK release, we have the same uninspiring Photoshop image of the two stars Matthau and Shaw, as seen on an earlier Blu-ray. Thankfully though, with Arrow Video you usually have a reversible cover, so I've chosen to go with a much more dynamic reproduction of the 1970s original poster. Now, if you haven't seen this film before, where have you been? In this classic 1974 thriller, a New York subway train is hijacked by a gang of armed men. They use matching disguises and colour-coded pseudonyms, such as Mr. Blue, Mr. Black, Mr. Brown, etc., which without doubt inspired a certain Quentin Tarantino when it came to a film called Reservoir Dogs. The hijackers demand a ransom of $1 million, which must have been a lot of money in 1974, let alone today. The only snag is, if they don't get it within 1 hour, they will start killing the passengers. And that demand gives us a sense of events happening in real time, and it really ratchets up the tension in what is a superb script by screenwriter Peter Stone, adapted from the novel by John Gotti. And the script is perfectly pitched, not only to get the best out of Walter Matthau and Robert Shaw, but also the superb supporting cast. What sets Pelham 123 apart from its gritty contemporaries, such as The French Connection, is that here the violence and the tension are often offset by some really well-judged humour, which is often laugh-out-loud stuff attached to really good character development. Walter Matthau has to be one of my favourite actors of all time. That's not just because he was a great comedy actor, but also when he was given the chance, he was also a great dramatic actor, and he gets a chance to show that in Pelham 123, as well as bringing in his characteristic laconic style. Matthau's character of Lieutenant Garber is a world-weary, self-deprecating transport cop who just happens to be the most senior officer on duty when the hijack goes down. Robert Shaw is of course excellent too, and his overwhelmingly dominant screen presence makes him totally believable in this role. His character is the sort of prototype British bad guy, often copied but seldom bettered in American action movies of this kind going forward. Also outstanding is veteran character actor Martin Balsam as the designated train driver of the gang. He plays the entire film with a terrible cold, which becomes a major plot point towards the end of the film. And as we all know, any gang of this type needs a resident psycho to make things go pear-shaped, and in this case he's played by Hector Elizondo, who does an outstanding job as Mr. Grey. And Robert Shaw's character points out that he was even too crazy for the mafia. Now, it's not giving too much away to say that Walter Matthau and Robert Shaw don't actually meet each other until the last few minutes of this film, and that's something of a masterstroke, because in the meantime the tension is really ratcheted up and we are highly entertained by the conversations they have with each other in this cat and mouse game over two-way radio. Now let's talk about image quality. As with all of my Arrow Video purchases so far, this is an absolutely fantastic 4K transfer. I have to be honest and say that I wouldn't usually go for this type of movie in 4K, for the simple reason that it's not what I would call an epic or a visually stunning film. It's a down and dirty 1970s New York thriller, and for that reason I would usually expect a lot of film grain and it wouldn't look too great in 4K. However, I didn't count on the talent of cinematographer Owen Roizman and the fantastic job that he did on this film. It seems he was really up against it when it came to lighting, considering the film stocks of the time and the fact that the majority of this film is set underground in the New York subway, and he wanted to use mostly available light in order to maintain its claustrophobic atmosphere. So to do this, he did something called flashing the film, which roughly speaking is pre-exposing the film very briefly before actually shooting on set. And the results of this are excellent. The image appears exposed perfectly throughout this film with hardly any intrusive film grain. So if any digital denoising has been done for this edition, I can't spot any adverse effects. It's definitely an improvement on the previous Blu-ray. So if you've had any doubts at all about whether or not to get this film in 4K, I'd say have them no longer. Go out and get it. As with all Arrow releases, this one is absolutely packed with special features, and some of them are brand new for this release. Sadly, there aren't any archive interviews with Matthau or Shaw, but two interviews with surviving cast member Hector Elizondo are very enlightening. We also hear from DP Owen Roisman, editor Gerald Greenberg, and there's a fascinating feature with composer David Shire about his fantastic jazz-funk influenced soundtrack. There's also a really nice featurette from 1974 presented by a transit authority cop who was an advisor on the movie and also appeared in a few scenes. It might have been nice to see an extra dedicated purely to director Joseph Sargent. A veteran of World War II, Sargent started out as an actor and he transitioned into directing in the 1960s, cutting his teeth on TV shows like Star Trek and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. He alternated between TV and film for most of his career, but his first foray into filmmaking was Colossus: The Forbin Project, which is still a very terrifying vision of the dangers of AI. It's become something of a cult classic like Pelham 123, but Pelham 123 remains his greatest commercial success. I have to say I really have a soft spot for 1970s American thrillers like Pelham 123, and that's simply because, unlike a lot of today's films, they don't rely on a bullet count and lots of explosions to keep an audience's attention. Instead, they have something called a well-plotted script, really good character actors, and also the ability to maintain something called suspense. I picked my copy up here at HMV in the UK for £24.99 on the day of release. However, at the time of making this video, I have seen it on sale for as little as £18, which I think is well worth it for such a stunning 4K release. That's it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, why not like, share and subscribe to keep me motivated? And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Okay, roll 'em!